The opinions you hear on KTRS are those of the host, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or owners. If you have comments or suggestions, contact us at ktrs.com. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services.
Are you?
Well, I am for the next 4 seconds. Our officer located in beautiful, sunny, very quickly warming downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 45-year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined by my incredibly able co-hosts, my oldest prodigal big mouth daughter, certified financial planner, Aaron Lapidus, and my favorite only son-in-law, Rob Markham, our also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We hope our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a real strategy, a step-by-step game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to deliver a reliable source of income, one they can count on so they can do all the things they want to do in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Folks, again, thanks so much for tuning in this morning. We've got 2 hours of fun. Something a little different format today.
Not that we don't always answer your questions, because that's why we're here, but today is...
The mailbag overfloweth.
That's right.
We've had a lot of responses, getting a lot of hits on our website in the Contact Us section, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And we love to do that, but we're going to center our show all about the questions we received in the last 7 days.
But if you have a question, now is a perfect opportunity to get that question answered. You can give us a call at 314-931-5877 or text in your question 84126. We'll prioritize the live questions over our mailbag questions.
Absolutely.
As they come in.
And there are also lots of ways that, if you like, you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Just log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us section. Send us an email if you have a question, if you'd like a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. We'll respond to those emails within 24 hours. Or we'll answer your question live on the air if you happen to send us a question through the website today. Happy to do that. And we also have other ways that you can keep in touch with us almost every day throughout the week. In the lower left-hand side of the screen, you can click the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and we do keep the last 18 months logged on the website for you to peruse if you'd like.
Absolutely, and we've got some great articles in our July 2024 newsletter. The first one being Bon Voyage. Post-pandemic levels of travel have just about returned to their pre-COVID levels. U.S. citizens took 98 million trips in 2023 compared to 99 million in 2019, right before the beginning of the pandemic. This article has a great infographic showing where most Americans are taking their vacations, and over 2/3 are staying within Mexico, the Caribbean, or Canada, which I found rather interesting. And, you know, every meeting we've had, it seems like someone is going somewhere this summer, which is great because we can live vicariously through the vacation lives of our client base, which is kind of fun. And it seems like everyone's going somewhere. So this is a great article highlighting where people are going. And our next article, watch out for these hazards on the road to retirement. Another great article highlighting some of the things that might get in the way of saving for retirement and how to avoid that, whether it's investing too aggressively, investing too conservatively, or using your retirement accounts to buy things like a new car, an unexpected home repair, vacations, etc., etc. Just some things you're going to want to avoid. And our next article, asset allocation and diversification. You know, there's no right or wrong asset allocation. The quote-unquote right allocation depends on your age, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, and your specific goals. Having said that, this is an informative article that helps you understand the principles of establishing balance, adding diversification, and staying on target by monitoring the portfolio and changing when necessary. And our last article, after a loss of a loved one, watch out for scammers. You know, we've talked a lot about, you know, things to do when a loved one dies, from papers to gather to getting extra death certificates to starting a notebook, etc., etc. Well, we can add another thing to that list, and that's watching out for scammers. You know, these scammers are sophisticated, and they will be on the lookout for any details they can exploit, whether from obituaries, funeral homes, social media posts, etc., etc. You want to avoid putting too much information in an obituary. Avoid birth dates, places of birth, addresses, or mother's maiden names. I mean, it's terrible that we have to take these kind of precautions, but it's better to be safe than to be sorry.
It says here that individuals lost $10 billion
Yeah.
in scams last year. $10 billion.
It's unfortunate, and you would think that there would, you know, be some people out there that wouldn't look to prey on the most vulnerable, but unfortunately that's not the reality. That's not the timeline we're in, sweetheart. I wish it were different.
That's a great point. We call it the Coach's Corner. If you'd like to access it, just log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that floating icon that appears on the lower left-hand side of the screen. There's also a lot of other great information on our website. If you are looking for information on a specific topic, we have clips and videos, or if you're looking to listen to a specific show or just peruse some of our old shows, we do have the compliance-approved shows logged on our website as well.
We have a monster section of content for people's downloading and viewing and listening, perusal, and you should definitely take advantage of it because it's all right there and it's free.
That's right. It is.
Exactly. Well, good. So, again, while our phone lines are open, we'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. As I like to say, we always have a lot of things on our mind, but what's more important is what's on yours.
And we already have our very first text of the day.
And our first texter writes, have you heard anything about Social Security requiring all recipients to change their passwords?
Yes. Yes, that is in fact accurate. So due to all of this ties in nicely with our last article about thievery and fraud. Scammers, thievery, fraud. Because one of the more damaging ways that people have been hacked, I guess, or defrauded is filing false tax returns, people filing a false tax return on their behalf.
Ugh.
And so basically what Social Security here is attempting to do is enhance their security around the socialsecurity.gov website. So that way that's not a place where people might be able to access personal information on your behalf or even direct your Social Security into someone else's bank account. So essentially what they're going to do is if you already have a mysocialsecurity.gov account and you created it before September 18th, 2021, you won't have to change your login information, but you will end up having to reset your password. For everyone else, if you haven't created an account yet, you still have the opportunity to do so without going through any extra steps. You'll just automatically be part of this new credentialing service that Social Security is going to start using, but that is going to require a password reset. For everyone else, if you're not prepared to take Social Security, you don't want to create the account online yet, there'll just be an extra step or two when you do create your login because you'll also create an ID through one of these credentialing services.
Sounds good.
That's right. So don't be wary of that. And also, as many of you know, Social Security is not going to contact you in any other way but by mail. So you're not going to get phone calls from
or emails
from agents. You are always able to call Social Security if you have a question to clarify about your account specifically. Very
good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from it already started this morning text line. So while we're waiting for your texts and your calls, I do want to go through some emails, and we really had some great ones this week, and frankly, we're not going to be able to get through all of them, but we have already addressed each of these as return emails, but we wanted to share them with you. Jerry writes me from Chesterfield. I'm 63 years old and would like to work until my Social Security normal retirement age at 67. My company offers a 401k Roth option. Should I make contributions to the Roth or the traditional pre-tax option or both? Not an unusual question, right?
Not at all.
Folks are thinking about what is the best way to do it. Well, again, we don't have any specific information about how much Jerry's accumulated at this point, where his savings are, etc., whether pre-tax or after-tax. So let's just do some general rules of thumb, and we'll talk about why we think these make sense. What do you think, babe?
Sure. So the first thing, well, first of all, we also don't know Jerry's income. So that's another important component, too, because of what tax bracket he might be in. But a general rule of thumb is you should try to make the maximum contribution to the pre-tax option in your 401k first, because you want to take advantage of all of the tax deductions available to you when you're theoretically in your highest income earning years.
It's called net present value. The present value of tax deductions today are worth more than later. Take them today. While you're working, you're going to be in your highest income earning tax brackets. There was a show, it was a Western. It was Walter Brennan. He used to always say, no brag, just fact.
No brag.
And that's what it really is that you will be in a lower bracket when you retire. Therefore, take advantage of the pre-tax deduction you can. However, there's a hook with this, right, Robert? Because the catch-up provision isn't really going to be treated in the same way.
His $7,500 catch-up contribution will automatically go to Roth starting in 2025, so he can get a little bit of the best of both worlds here. It doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing solution.
Right, and we know that the Trump tax cuts are supposed to sunset in 25.
Maybe.
Oh, my God.
No, well, it's just...
My God, there's two of them.
Right.
We don't...
They're multiplying.
We don't know.
Sure.
But for another reason, if you believe, or you're led to believe, that these tax cuts are going to truly sunset, it makes more sense to get those deductions today than later. Good idea. So that was a very good email, and obviously our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. We also got a very interesting question from Tony.
Okay. From Afton?
Yes.
Tony wrote, I'm retired 2 years ago when I became eligible for Medicare at 65, so I guess that makes him 67.
Yes.
I have not elected my Social Security as I have a part-time job and my wife has continued to work. Should I elect my Social Security benefits now or wait until she retires in 2 more years?
These are doozies. We're getting good ones this morning, aren't we?
We always do.
Well, since you're now 67, you should be your normal retirement age in terms of Social Security. You can elect those benefits without any of the income limitations occurring, right?
Right, which they refer to that as the take-back.
Yes, and so again, Robert, tell us about the take-back.
The take-back, if you're single and you're making under...
Well, Tony's married, so let's use the married ones. If
he's married, filing jointly, the take-back would be $21,240. If he makes anything more than that, they're taking back $1 for every 2 over that amount.
And that's until the last year, till the year he turns.
Normal retirement age.
Normal retirement age, when he does turn, they'll be taking back $1 for every 3 that he earns over $59,520. So if he's working part-time, he probably is going to be well below that.
Right. And then once you reach your normal retirement age, like we mentioned, there is no take-back.
No, you can earn as much as you'd like, and you don't have to worry about any take-back.
So that's one reason why he might elect it, but you might decide that he'd like that last 16% of increases over the next 2 years until his wife retires. So unless you necessarily have a reason to take your Social Security, Tony didn't mention if he's going to continue to work part-time. It sounds like that's making up his income. He didn't mention any distributions from retirement accounts or anything like that.
Well, let's think about what are some of the reasons that he might have. And we do have clients that do have this. To take Social Security, where could we direct those dollars while they're not going to necessarily consume them for income purposes, but to help with other things?
If he had any kind of debt obligations and he started taking his Social Security, it certainly would help there. If, as Aaron mentioned, if he was taking distributions from his retirement accounts, beginning to elect the Social Security would take pressure off those distributions. He might not even have to take distributions anymore, at least until he made it till 73, depending on what those distributions were. So there are plenty of good reasons to elect that benefit.
And we also see, because most of our clients have been not only prudent but zealous
in
investing in their retirement accounts, they sometimes don't have as much non-taxable.
So we want to
available.
build up some after-tax savings.
Vault, right, yeah. that after-tax savings, so that when it comes to doing maybe some larger capital projects, things like that, instead of having to tap their retirement plans, which again require income tax to be withheld, they have access to other capital, and that's something good. Also, if your spouse's Social Security is smaller than yours at her normal retirement age of 67, it could make sense to put off the election.
So now we're kind of talking about why you might want to hold off. First one might be, like I mentioned, the increases that you'll continue to get. So you get that guaranteed 8% year over year. Next one might be you want to bump up your Social Security benefit in the event that you might predecease your wife or your spouse in a generalized way. So that way, if you predecease the lower income earning spouse, then they get to keep the larger Social Security benefit.
Exactly. And, we do see folks that in many cases have pension plans. And many of those pension assumptions and or elections don't necessarily take 100% of the income going to the surviving spouse. So there could be multiple reasons for income to be dropping for that surviving spouse, so that by putting off Social Security, increasing that benefit, it'll certainly reduce the blow a little bit. And, again, all we would remind Tony about is that by foregoing Social Security benefits, you really have to measure what the break-even is going to be.
Right, you're giving up income for the next 2 years. You've given up income for the past 2, but that was with purpose.
And really, it's also kind of, in some ways, tax-preferred, because a maximum of only 85% of that benefit is subject to federal income tax, not 100% like distributions from retirement accounts. So, you generally need to live for at least 9 years past your election to break even. That is, the amount that you forego is equal to the increased monthly amount that you're receiving by foregoing that. So it's a gamble, but for some folks, it's a measured gamble.
And before we take our first break of the hour, we have Les on the line.
Good morning, Les.
Good morning.
Yeah. You have an IRA question about required minimum distributions?
Yes, I'm 71 years old. I have around 600,000 in an IRA, and I know 73. I got to start taking those required distributions. I've also read where I could, backdoored into a Roth, and I'd have 2 years. I could do some of that money. I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, are you taking distributions from your IRA accounts right now?
No. Now, I thought about starting it this year. I mean, maybe, taking some out and go ahead and paying the taxes on it.
So I would say that the first option being, moving it into a Roth over the next couple of years. First of all, if you don't already have a Roth account, you're locking that money up for 5 years, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But then secondly, if we just take a look, we use that average number, 600,000. If you were 73 this year, you'd have to take about 24,000. So I feel like, in our opinion, that's not a undue tax burden. So to try to, siphon a bunch of or to pull a bunch of money out of the IRA account over the next 2 years in order to reduce your requirement next 2 years from now probably won't get you very far in terms of tax brackets.
Okay.
Yeah, Les, I would just add two things here. Number one is, as Aaron would say, one of the dadisms are never pay taxes on money you're not consuming.
Until you have to.
Exactly. So I wouldn't. So if you can withhold, if you don't need to make distributions to make your life work from your retirement account, then wait, let that money grow, income tax deferred. And the second thing is that, if you happen to be making charitable contributions, whether it's to a church or other 501c3 charities, you can reduce the taxation of your required minimum distributions dollar for dollar. So as an example, let's just say that
24,000 number is your required minimum distribution for the year.
And let's assume for fun that you're giving 1,000 to the church and maybe $500 to the Wounded Warriors and $500 to St. Jude. So that's a total of 2,000. You're still going to have to report 24,000 of taxable distribution, but it gets reduced by 2,000. So only 22,000
is taxable.
Would be subject to income taxes. So that's one thing we're recommending to our clients, that we do things that we're currently doing, not
just more efficiently.
Exactly, not new things, but more effectively.
Or it could be a new thing if you decide that you haven't been charitable in the past and now is your opportunity because you can reduce your tax liability. This is another good one, especially in the sense that at least this year, if you happen to be 70 and a half is the requirement for a qualified charitable distribution. So if you are already making if you're already charitable, you can actually flip to having those distributions sent from your IRA account even this year if you wanted to get the process set up, and you wouldn't pay taxes on those distributions, and you'd start using some of your pre-tax dollars to do things as opposed to your current income, which is probably a majority taxable.
Right. I actually have thought about doing the charitable thing because they've got some really good organizations out there, and St. Jude's is one of them.
You see, we all see those
great
commercials.
And I think what's important here is to start with things you're already doing. If you are sending money to certain charities, if you do belong to a religious organization you're sending dues to,
yeah, let's
start with what you're really doing and move backwards. It's interesting because Rob and I had a case the other day, and again, we thank you for your call. Rob and I had a situation the other day where we met with a client, and he wasn't able to itemize his deductions. He paid off his home, etc. But what he was doing was his accountant was he was making large charitable contributions to a church, some other places.
So he could take a deduction.
So he did.
Right.
So he actually was able
itemize,
to, only because of the charitable stuff. Well, we went back and did an analysis.
We crunched the numbers.
Exactly. Which was, hey, what if we do it the other way? Which is he takes the standard deduction, but then what we do is we knock the charitable stuff off the top of his retirement distributions, and how would that have a better effect? And we found that actually he was
a couple $1,000s, I think.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is kind of neat. So it's real important to look at this a couple different ways. I think what the big deal here with, at least as far as I'm concerned, with these charitable contributions, the IRA, your plan sponsor has to send the money for you. It isn't us sending it to you and then you cutting the checks like you're used to. Once you get the money in your hands, the deal's over.
Right, then you would have to be able to itemize in order to get the deduction if you have the money sent directly to you. Now, this doesn't count if, and many broker-dealers have recommended, including our own, is that the check be made out to the charitable organization but be mailed to your home, so you are sure to get it. You are sure to be able to give it to your charitable organization, or you mail it personally, just because with post-COVID, there's been some issues with the mail, so they've been noting that some checks aren't getting where they need to go, so this is a fail-safe for you. The key is that the check be made out to the charitable organization. And then one other thing to note for everyone, if this is going to be something that you're starting up this year and you haven't done it in the past, your broker-dealer doesn't take the company that's holding the IRA doesn't take responsibility for proving that it was a charitable distribution. They don't want to take that liability on, so they are going to record everything on your 1099 as distributions from your account, because they have to show that it left your account. It's your responsibility to take the 1099 and then couple it with either copies of the check, which if you work with us, we're easily able to get to you, or letters from the charitable organization that you sent the money to.
You mean the thank you for sending, and then also please send some more next week?
Exactly.
Okay.
Couple those things together so your accountant, your tax preparer, or even yourself will be able to record, I took the distribution in this dollar amount, but X dollar amount actually went to charitable organizations. So it's just a technical thing.
It works great.
Right.
And so what we're telling our clients is, don't pick up your checkbook.
Give us a call.
Give us a call, and we'll make sure that we get these people on the list. And then what's fun for us is, at the beginning of the year, we're making our calculations for them on the requirement of distribution for the year. We're then sitting down and we're saying, okay, how do we want to take this money? When do we want to take this money? Are we going to send this to the same places that we are, if they're charities? The same amount? Are there new ones? Are we omitting? Et cetera? It's planning.
And the other nice thing is, for most or many of our clients, they're already taking monthly distributions in order to make their income work. So
these count directly against
exactly. So we're going to total it up, and in many cases, especially in the first year of required minimum distributions, if you're taking at or around 4%, most likely you're naturally going to hit that number without much additional work on your behalf. It's as you start to get older and hopefully your account values are rising over time that you're going to start to see a little disparity between what you've been taking on a monthly basis and how much you need to pull.
Yes. And with that, why don't we take our first break of the hour?
Let's do that.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
The Missouri Laborers Union and their contractors build our communities. Chances are your church, school, grocery store, or gas station was built by contractors using union laborers. They take great pride in their work and accomplishments and love to go by an old project and say, I built that. The men and women of the Missouri Laborers Union and their contractors, taking pride in building our communities. Go to buildunion.com for more information. That's buildunion.com.
It's time to make a summertime splash with Dogtown Pizza. Hi, Josh here, and what better way to feed that hungry pool party than with a couple of Dogtown pizzas? And with 11 different varieties, there's something for every swimmer this summer. Who wants hamburgers from the grill when you can have it on your pizza? And fresh from the garden, it's tomato, basil, garlic. Just remember to wait 45 minutes before diving back in. Make a splash this summer with Dogtown Pizza.
Find summer savings now at appliance discounters on the most dependable washer and dryer, Speed Queen. With an average life expectancy of 25 years, for a limited time, the Speed Queen Classic Series, you'll receive a $300 cash rebate via the mail. Appliance Discounters is the largest locally owned dealer in the metropolitan area. They buy more than the other guys and sell for less. Always 12 months free financing. Find the new Speed Queen at Appliance Discounters online at theappliancediscounters.com.
Baron Glass and Door, simply the finest when it comes to mirrors, glass, and shower doors. You can't find better quality, better prices, or even better service than at Baron Glass and Door. Baron Glass and Door has the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs. Our must-see showroom is conveniently located in Chesterfield Valley. We have the basics all the way up to the elite. Baron Glass and Door can't be beat.
You're looking to sell your home. Guess who it is? A home buyer, but they have loads of contingencies. It's an agent, but that means commissions. So when you're ready to sell as is, it's time to call Mike Robinson with Robank Properties. Family-owned, St. Louis-based business. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. No repairs. You can close within 2 weeks. Walk away with cash. No extra fees, no headaches. Sell as is. Call Mike Robinson at Robank Properties. 314-283-0867. 283-0867.
Hi, this is Dr. Dan Lang. Join me for Animal Talk every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 on the Big 550 KTRS, the Animal Talk of St. Louis.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
9:37 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement with me, Jeff Lapidus, and my able crew, my daughter, certified financial planner, Aaron Lapidus, and my son-in-law, fee-based financial planner, wealth manager, Robert Markham.
And I just wanted to, I had a great email question from our show last week regarding a Social Security question. So I'm just going to do a little background for everyone, but I thought it tied in nicely to Tony's email question. Hi, Aaron. I have a follow-up question from your radio show this past Saturday. The question was, if my spouse waited until his full retirement age of 67 to take Social Security, but I take mine at 62, if he passes and I switch to his Social Security for survivor benefits, will those survivor benefits be affected because I took my Social Security early at 62? So we know the answer to that question is no, as long as you are your normal retirement age when you take the survivor benefit. So it's still key to you, meaning if you happen to be
your current age at the time of electing.
Correct. So if you were 65 when your husband passed away and you want to flip over to the survivor benefit, it's going to be discounted by 16% if your normal retirement age is 67. But if you've reached 67 and you want to take the spousal, there is no discount.
Exactly. And you can't, and the whole thing about you could have stepped up in the,
right.
No more.
Unfortunately, no.
We just got to keep the husband alive a few more years.
Just a few.
Maybe.
The follow-up question is, if the spouse dies before I reach my full retirement age of 67, so for example, when I'm 64, can I wait until 67 to switch to survivor benefits so I can get the full amount he is getting now? Or are the survivor benefits based on my age when I switch, my spouse passes away? So am I forced to switch over to the survivor benefit as soon as my spouse dies? So that is a great question, and the answer is...
Well, there are two questions there. First one was yes, second one was no.
Right. First one is yes if your spouse, and we already answered that, if your spouse passes away before your normal retirement age and you want to flip over, you will see a discount. However...
You can wait.
Social Security does not force you to take the survivor benefit ever. So that means... In another example, if your spouse passes away and they had the lower benefit, you never have to switch over to their benefit. Or if you would like to continue your benefit and wait to receive the full benefit from your spouse that passed away, all you have to do is wait until you get to normal retirement age, and then you can flip over when you want to.
Yeah, I mean, the big deal here is that, well, one of the big, obviously, is everything's keyed to your age when you're electing. But when someone passes away, if you're married, the lower benefits going away.
Only if you switch over.
Right.
Right.
Or ultimately, you will.
Eventually.
And if you switch over before your normal retirement age, you're looking at a discount.
That's right.
Easy peasy.
That easy peasy.
Very good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And while we're waiting, we did want to go through another one that we received from Julie. Julie's from St. Charles. I'm 62 years old and not currently married. I think she probably wanted to say unencumbered, but that's cool. Have 2 grown children and 4 grandchildren. I already hate you, Julie, already.
Oh my gosh, poor Julie. All she did was ask a question.
Right. You didn't even get to the question yet.
Right.
Just doing the setup.
It's the grandkid part, okay?
You know what? Before we get to Julie.
No.
No, we're taking okay.
No, it's okay. We can take we have a phone call?
We do have a phone call.
Eric says we have a call. We have a call. Eric doesn't say so. We're talking about Julie of the 4
we got
grandkids.
Jake. He's on the line. Good morning, Jake.
It's Jane.
I'm sorry, Jane. It's far away.
Hi, Jane. Before I ask the question, I want to say that I think this financial show is the best one on the radio I've ever heard, and I've listened for many, many years. But my question is,
thank you.
That's really
could you please discuss spending down when you have a disabled person that might need to go to a nursing home, and what you have to do? I've heard that you have to spend down, and that they don't count your house. So that's what I would like you to discuss.
Okay, we certainly can do that in some very good and general terms. And again, thank you so much for your comments.
That was really checks in the mail.
Exactly. Compliance is we don't set people up, but that was a really nice comment.
It was very sweet.
So let's talk about spending down. Again, the concept of spending down is to become eligible for Medicaid, which is sponsored through the state. What you need to do is to reduce your asset side to a point where they'll come in and pay for expenses.
Right, because essentially the government wants you to spend your money first.
Right, and you do get, there are certain assets that you still can retain for that. We'll call them the chronically ill person. Right, which would be
your
a home, one car,
$2,000 of cash, and I believe
funeral plots.
Right, and the non-institutionalized spouse gets to maintain their income. So, for example, if you are married, you are the non-institutionalized spouse, you get to maintain your Social Security benefit and your pension if you have one. The majority, not your assets though, but the institutionalized spouse has to redirect their Social Security pensions over to paying for their care. The other important and key to think about is there is a 5-year look back from when the individual is in need of care, that they're going to review your assets to ensure that you are using them over the normal course of your income needs. So if you gift large amounts of money away over the 5 years prior to needing Medicaid to step in,
they're going to pull those assets back in.
Correct. So, if we use an example, let's say that you gift, you want the money to stay in the family. You had $50,000 worth of CDs that matured, so you gifted them to your children, respectively, staying under the gift tax limit, the $18,000 per year. The government, the state, is going to come back and say, well, actually, you have that $50,000. So from the day you or your spouse is institutionalized, you're going to have $50,000 of expenses that won't be covered under Medicaid. You'll have to spend, so you'll have to recoup what you had gifted away. Things that aren't considered gifts. So if you are trying to spend down and you want to make home improvements, you can do things like that. That's inclusive of everything from remodels to equipping your home so the spouse that needs care can get around. So, chair lifts, things like that.
And there is a certain level of assets that you can obtain. I believe in Missouri, I think it was $92,000. We just had a case to do this. But there's a couple of big deals here. For most of our clients, their money is inside of retirement accounts. So what happens is, there's a decision that's made about having to cash in those accounts, which can be expensive.
Creating tax liabilities.
There are ways to, I don't want to say avoid spend down, but what we're talking about is to get...
plan for spend down.
Well, to plan to try to get the state money quicker. And that's what these philosophies are, these ideas are. And so what happens
That's called asset preservation is what you might hear people talking about.
So if you're in a situation where you have a spouse that has become chronically ill, and you believe that at some point in time they're going to have to go to and may be leaving your home and going to an institution, and you do think that because of that level of care you're not going to be able to support it, and there may be a spend down, the first thing you need to do is to talk to your financial advisor, if you have one. And that advisor should be referring you to what's called an elder attorney. These are folks that specialize in the asset preservation area, but also for many of them here, which I think is great, is they're also the ones that do the application for you for Medicaid.
They also prepare you for the application, meaning they're going to get everything in order in terms of your assets. So when you make the application and the state looks at your finances, you are already prepared in the sense that things are already completed. So you have a higher probability of the application going through the first time around.
Right. And then they'll talk with you and hopefully with your advisor about how do we deal with the next 5 years. Okay, which is how much can we retain? How much do we have to try to preserve or protect so that the state can come in and begin to make payments for you as necessary? So not an easy situation, but this is really a case where the faster you get in front of financial professionals that do this,
on a regular, that specialize in this, especially when you're talking about attorneys and things like that.
It'll put you in a much better position where when the time comes and you have to make these decisions and go there, you're able to do so in a little more comfortable way.
And we had a follow-up. What if it's your brother? She did not mention that it was the spouse. All of these rules apply to individuals. It's just you have a little bit more flexibility when there's a spouse involved. So if her brother has a wife, then you would be able to use the same applicability, meaning the spouse is able to maintain their lifestyle. The state is the goal of the state is to their income needs. The goal of the state is to spend your money on the institutionalized spouse first before they spend theirs, but they also don't want to be responsible for the non-institutionalized spouse, so they're going to allow them to keep certain things. If you're single, then there's a little bit less flexibility, but all of the rules we discussed are still applicable to individuals.
And the other thing that's important here, just to remember, is if you need to visit with an elder attorney, someone that specializes in this area, they're not going to charge you for the first visit.
Right. Usually they're consultations.
Right, on the beginning, because what happens then is that you're explaining what your circumstances are. Hopefully you'll have some backup. You'll take some financial backup with you to do that. You'll have a general discussion. They'll talk about how the process works. And it's like a physician. They're going to diagnose where you are and what phase, are you in stage 1, stage 2, et cetera. Where are you? So that you can get ready to optimize the ability to get at the state money. And this is not something that's unusual, but it's not easy. And, making that, and we've had situations where we've had folks where we were ready to do the asset drawdown and move, and fortunately they passed away, honestly. It was fortunate for them because we were having to liquidate IRA accounts.
That's expensive.
Certainly it was. And then we're talking about moving things into potentially one estate planning tool is an irrevocable trust, moving all your assets into an irrevocable trust. Well, there's tax consequences there for the sale of these, especially the sale of these assets going into this trust. And then you can't get out of them. And then you still have the 5-year pullback. So get help. Ask for help.
That's the overarching theme.
That's the big deal.
Absolutely.
Should we take our second break of the hour and come back and talk about jewelry from St. Charles?
Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
Baron Glass and Door, simply the finest when it comes to mirrors, glass, and shower doors. You can't find better quality, better prices, or even better service than at Baron Glass and Door. Baron Glass and Door has the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs. Our must-see showroom is conveniently located in Chesterfield Valley. We have the basics all the way up to the elite. Baron Glass and Door can't be beat.
John Carney and Stefan Sigurdsson talking Allen Roofing and Siding.
We call it roof and run. I mean, that's a terminology that's used. You got to watch out for that type of contractor that, you know, may or may not be from this area. We don't like to door knock. We don't like to bother you unless you ask us. So we recommend calling the office, and we've got a great team of salespeople. So if you'd like an inspection, once a year is not a bad idea. Call the office and we'll send someone out from our team to document, do an inspection, take pictures, and give you some expert advice. Anytime we have an opportunity to come and build a relationship, we'll take that call. And if it's 20 years and you just like someone to just come and look, we'd be happy to do that and give you our opinion.
For roofing, siding, and more, it's Allen Roofing and Siding. Online at aroofing.net. That's aroofing.net.
Looking for a fun family night out? Look no further than Dirty Dogs Hot Dogs, the best hot dogs in town. Jason Gaines and the family runs Dirty Dogs Hot Dogs on Highway K in O'Fallon and Monticello Plaza. They make the hot dogs specifically for Dirty Dogs, and the buns, yes, specially made for Dirty Dogs. Going to enjoy a football game, a baseball game, playoffs? Dirty Dogs Hot Dogs, the best hot dogs in town. Dirty Dogs with a Z, hot dogs with an S. Dirty Dogs Hot Dogs, dine in or carry out. DirtyDogsHotDogs.com.
Experience the gold standard of service at Genesis of St. Charles. Your all-new standalone Genesis dealership is now open. Stop by to shop our exclusive in-store offers and test drive the latest models, including the striking all-new redesigned 2025 Genesis GV80. Experience elevated luxury at the all-new Genesis of St. Charles. We make amazing happen. Visit our new showroom at 5601 Veterans Memorial Parkway in St. Peters, or for more information, visit genesisofstcharles.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here for our last segment of this hour. We'll have hour number 2 coming up after the next break. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. So since we're waiting for a moment here, I'd like to get back to Julie.
Julie is,
she's
a grandma.
She's uncovered. She's a grandma.
She's 62.
She's 60 and grandma. And she has about $1.1 million in retirement assets.
She's already rich.
And she's got $80,000 in
she's a grandma, right?
Again.
And so the question is, Jeff, when are you going to be? I don't know. Sorry, Julie, I don't know.
She didn't want to retire. She wanted.
She just gave us all that financial info.
This cousin Julie, thank you, cousin.
Right.
Can I retire in 3 years? Well, Julie, just like everybody else, it really depends not on what you have in terms of asset base, but how much you're currently spending and how much of that paycheck do we need
to replace
for you. So let's use an example, and we'll kind of go through. I like to think of it as the formula that we use with everybody that comes to visit with us. First thing, what we do is we talk about. And we try to figure out what is their current after-tax spending. How much of that net paycheck are they consuming every month? So, Robert, help me out here, would you?
In this case, we settled on a number of $5,000. But we know we have to scale that up 20% for taxes. So that leaves us with a pre-tax spending goal of $6,000.
And let's just assume Julie's Social Security benefit at 65, which is when she plans to retire, is $2,800 a month.
That leaves us with $3,200 to replace every month. We scale that up over a year, and that leaves us with $38,000.
That's right. So we know that a prudent rate of withdrawal is about 4% annually from a lump sum of assets. So to determine what the size of that assets needs to be, we take the $38,400 divided by 4%, and we get $960,000.
That's the milk money. So we know Julie has $1.1 million plus $80,000 in the vault. Weep. She's a rock star.
If that's what she needs.
If that's what she needs.
Right.
What's important is, Julie, is for you to sit down with your advisor, if you have one. Go through the numbers. You'll have some very good clarity. And certainly some things can change a little bit here depending upon will you continue to work in any capacity. Do you really need to elect your Social Security benefit then, or will it be an issue just like we talked about before a little earlier about the take-back? So that's the formula. We hope that helps you.
And let's head over to Sal.
Good morning, Sal.
Well, how you doing? How's everybody?
We're doing great, Sal.
Great. Now that we heard from you, what's going on?
Exactly.
Well, I'm still working.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said.
Well, your wife says that's a defensive maneuver for her. So
well, as long as I've been working at this company that I'm with, they started me on like some kind of a fund that they're putting money in and I put some in and they put whatever. But there's about $20,000 in this fund now. The name of the fund is Principal.
Right.
And I'm not familiar with it. And should I just leave it there, or should I move it somewhere?
Well, Sal, as your investment advisors, your client.
You can't say that.
Well, we know. Sal always calls, so he's a regular. That's why he calls, because he's a regular. But he's a regular. So,
sorry, guys, this show won't be.
We love you.
Hold it. I'm family. I'm not a regular.
Well,
exactly.
That's right.
Family.
Exactly. So what happens here, Sal, is that Principal Financial is a custodian. They have you invested most likely in a retirement plan. And so that money, I'm sure, because if it's being taken out on a pre-tax basis, it's a 401k. We would suggest that you leave it there as long as you're working.
Because they're going to keep contributing. You've got a little going in.
It's the lowest cost environment.
You can always roll it over when you finally get to retire.
That's correct. And also, you're not too old where we have to make required minimum distributions from that automatically. So keep on going. Let it keep on growing. And then what we'll do is we'll add it to your pot when you decide to go. It'll be a tax-free rollover, just like we did with your other company's retirement accounts. Work the same way.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I plan on keeping working for a while, but I don't know. I'm getting kind of old now.
Well, you might be getting older or growing up, but you're not curmudgeon-y. That's the important part. So.
In August, I have my 73rd birthday. So.
Woohoo!
Wow! Congratulations.
That's great.
Many more.
That means your wife's 52, so it's good, right?
Yeah, that's about right. Don't congratulate me yet, though. I didn't make it yet.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, we love you. Well, happy birthday soon, and thanks so much for calling in.
Good talking to you guys. But that's okay. Principal's all right, though. Just leave it there.
Principal's okay. That's not a problem. And, what we didn't suggest, and we will. We'll send him an email, which is, if you like, send us a list of, we want to take a look at what he's able to invest in, because what we're going to want to do is synergize what he is investing in with that plan with what he already has with us. I mean, that makes sense to make sure we're not duplicating.
Absolutely.
And we may be in a position where they have some things that, I know Principal has a very good history, has a very big history in the real estate market. So it could be that we might be using maybe one of their real estate funds or something like that.
To couple with what they're already.
Help him diversify his portfolio in a little bit different way. I was going to say, if we don't have any further texts, we're getting close to the end of this hour.
Yes, we are.
And, what's nice is that when we get close to the end of the hour, we always like to remind everybody that we are open for business. You can come in if you like for a free coaching session. It's fun. It's free. It's at our offices and all of that. We have our own private building, private parking lot, best coffee in town, snacks that you can only get at Costco. And It's great,
but they're
right?
good snacks.
Hey,
best
if you
snacks.
like, spend an hour with us, talk to us a little about what's happening. We'll talk about creating that game plan for you so that you can have a fun and hopefully financially successful worry-free retirement. But don't touch that dial. We will be right back after these messages of hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement.
Nationally known. The opinions you hear on KTRS are those of the host, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or owners. If you have comments or suggestions, contact us at ktrs.com. Thanks for listening. Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. As always, we are going to kick off this hour with our smart choices about your healthcare segment.
Because you care, we talk Medicare.
That's right. And we're going to continue with the theme. We always have a lot of great Medicare questions on deck. So we're going to get to a few of those. But if you happen to have any Medicare questions, please give us a call, 314-931-5877, or send us a text, 84126 on the text line. We do have a few Social Security questions on deck that we are going to get to in a few minutes.
We did not forget about you out there in the text lines, but we're just going to segue into our Medicare segment. We'll circle back to you. So
right back.
Don't be alarmed.
Absolutely.
And Lindsay from Arnold writes, good morning. I've listened to you talk about the coming changes to Medicare that are going to be rolling out this year. I am concerned about possible price increases to the supplement. You know, we've touched on that
a few times.
There's going to be some price increases. We don't know the scope and nature of them just yet, but we have been warned that there are going to be.
As opposed to the 1 to 5% increases you've been accustomed to, we're looking at 10 to 20%.
Right.
On the supplemental premiums.
But, like I said, we haven't seen anything concrete yet, so we're in a holding pattern as well. And Lindsay writes, I've never had a Medicare Advantage plan, and I've only ever used a supplement, nor have I ever had an agent help me select a plan. Having said all that, when will we know for sure what these changes are, and when would be the best time to set up an appointment with Frank or yourself?
So there's a lot of questions in here.
Right.
This is a good email.
It's, I mean, I think we've primed people up with when we came back from that conference about a month ago.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, really, that seemed like just yesterday, but I think we've primed people up with the idea that, hey, look, these changes are going to be coming. We don't know the exact nature of them yet, but it's my understanding that a lot of these renewal letters have already gone out or are in the process of going out right now.
Right.
So you should be getting them.
Right, your supplement is you're going to get your renewal letter prior to the month you elected your supplement. So it doesn't happen all at once, right? It happens over the course of the year, depending upon when you enrolled. If you enrolled in the first half of the year, you might have missed the premium increase from this year to
You're going to get a little bit of a respite,
right?
But for everybody else,
it's coming.
Right, like Christmas, it'll be here.
Right, so you might not see your renewal letter until open enrollment, or you may have already received yours. In regards to the changes to Medicare Advantage plans, and also we want to take into account, if you're on a supplement, the changes to your prescription drug plan that you elected independently of your supplement. Those are all going to be released October 1st. As always, we won't be able to discuss any of the plan changes, any of the premium changes to the prescription drug plans until the 1st of October. And you have between October 15th and December 7th is official open enrollment. However, our office, and I know many other offices, will start meeting with individuals as soon as October 1st when we actually can discuss those plan changes.
And that's key to... You really want to get on the schedule if you have questions in this regard. I would think earlier rather than later, because it is going to be a rather robust open enrollment season this year. In particular, I mean, it's robust every year. We sell more Medicare than anyone. Not that we sell Medicare, we sign people up for Medicare.
We assist people in enrollment.
There you go, and we assist people at a prolific rate. So.
And with everyone's concerns about their plan, about the changes to their plan, about the costs and and the changes to their cost. A lot of people are going to have very busy schedules, so if you would like to ensure that you have the opportunity to sit down and chat with someone, and also the opportunity to have time to think about things. So we want to make sure that, you come in. Sometimes the choice is easy and you can make it in the office the day of the appointment. Sometimes you want some time to think about it. If you want a little time to be able to think about things, you want to get in before December 7th.
If it were me, I think I would set the appointment now and know that you have that in your back pocket, and you can always change it if it doesn't work out for you as you get closer. But I would definitely try and get on the schedule as soon as possible. That way you don't end up without a chair when the music stops.
And also the great thing is you can sit down and have a review with Frank in our office, or really any agent, and there's no obligation to make a change, but you will have the opportunity, especially sounds like you don't already have an agent or you haven't used one in the past. You have the opportunity to sit down with an expert like Frank and really review all of your options, see what the choices are, and make an educated decision on just your upcoming year's plan. You don't have to stay in it forever. Not every choice is final. So you'll have the opportunity to see if your health care still matches your health care needs, or if you can improve your situation. You can do that by sending Frank an email, franklin@jblfinancial.com, or clicking on the Contact Us section in the upper right-hand corner of our website, jblfinancial.com, saying, hey, I want to talk to Frank, or just give us a call, 314-863-0008. I know we've got a few more questions.
And our next texter writes, I am on a Medicare Advantage plan, and I am going on an out-of-state vacation. I just don't know where yet.
That's great, though.
It might be Colorado. It might be Florida. But if I need medical attention and I'm out of my service area, will I have it? Yes, you will.
That's no matter what Medicare Advantage plan you're currently using, because he didn't happen to mention, you will have access to ER and urgent care at in-network prices, regardless of where you are in the United States. If you happen to be utilizing a plan through Aetna or through United Healthcare, you'll have access to their national network, which means, if you're out in Colorado and instead of enjoying the beautiful hiking, you'd like to see a dermatologist, as long as they're in your respective United or Aetna, depending upon what plan you have, as long as they are in-network, then you will be able to access them as in-network, which is pretty cool.
My dad asked me a question the other day because he's fearful that, he'll sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan in New York, and he'll be traveling, and they'll come back and say, hey, you've been out of your service area for too long. There are no restrictions on how long you can be outside of your service area, are there?
You can be out of your service area for all but one day of the year. But I would ask, and this is not to skirt the system, how will they know?
That's what I kept, where is the enforcement arm for this, Pop?
The true enforcement is they want you to elect a plan in the community in which you live, because these are what are called community-based or regionally based products. So wherever you have your driver's license, wherever Social Security, that's really key, wherever Social Security has you registered as living, that's where you want your Medicare Advantage plan to originate. That's where it has to originate. Now, if you happen to be traveling around, we have clients that own RVs, and they are on the move on a regular basis. They have a P.O. box in a state because they get tax-preferred income in that said state. I don't know if they are ever there.
That's great.
So, but the other important thing is with Medicare Advantage plans, unlike the supplements, even though they have truly expanded your access, even when you're out of your service area through the national networks that Aetna and United have, you really want your plan to be where you receive care the most. So for many individuals, you may have multiple homes, or you may spend extended time outside of where you live, but most people have physicians clustered in a specific area. You see your primary, your specialist all in the same place. They're not scattered throughout the country, so that's another key component to things. I think we have time for, do you have one more for us?
We do. And Jessica from Creve Coeur writes, I've heard this is the last year of the donut hole. What does that mean for Medicare beneficiaries going forward?
Well, it means a few things. One, it means great news for individuals if you are using higher price medications or on tier 4 medications, which would be non-preferred brand medications. If you're on tier 5 medications, which would be the Medicare tier.
Catastrophic.
Right. You don't have to worry about catastrophic coverage anymore because that's all going away. Instead of having to spend over $7,000 of your own money, the government has now limited it starting in 2025 to $2,000. So for those of you that are familiar with maximum out-of-pockets because you've been using those Medicare Advantage plans, you're going to have a maximum drug out-of-pocket. So you'll have two. You'll have the maximum out-of-pocket for the medical side, and then you'll finally have a maximum out-of-pocket for the prescription drug side. So if we were using this year, for example, you have let's just say next year that you are still on a plan that has a $3,000 maximum out-of-pocket on the medical. Once you hit that, anything medically related, so visits to the doctor, labs, x-rays, surgeries, admissions to the hospital, once you spend $3,000, you are done. Now, if you have more expensive medications, name brand medications that have been pushing you into the donut hole in past years, this in 2025, you'll only have to spend $2,000 of prescription drug cost in order to then no longer have to pay for any of your medications. Now, there is going to be an additional benefit here, which is that many of you probably have used that Ameren benefit where they can smooth your monthly electric bill. You know, in the summer it gets more expensive, but you want to keep a consistent price. They're going to allow you to sign a form with your new prescription drug plan or Medicare Advantage plan that says, I want consistent pricing throughout the year. So let's just say that, you have a medication that is going to put you into the donut hole relatively soon. Instead of having a copay month 1 and then all of your $2,000 in month 2, they'll let you spread that out over the full year so you're paying a consistent amount for budgeting purposes.
Well, that's certainly a great thing. And we have one more question.
All right.
Texter writes, how will the change affect me? I am still working and plan to pull the plug in May.
Of 25.
Currently carrying traditional and group because I was going to change employer, but that did not work out.
So if you are currently carrying Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B, when you leave your group plan, you'll have access to a special election, which will allow you to elect either a supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. So the only change will be everyone's changes, which are what the benefits are. You won't have any specific changes because you haven't elected Medicare yet.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that about 60 days or so before, which we're really talking about is in March. If you're going to leave in May, get together with a professional. Look at your alternatives that you have available to you, whether they're traditional or Medicare Advantage, so that you'll have enough time so that when that day in May comes that you leave, you'll be able to have a seamless transition at that point. And that's really a big thing. If you're seamlessly transitioning, you'll feel good about your health plan.
That's right. We're still here to take your calls and questions, 314-931-5877 or 84126 on the text line. Let's jump back to our Social Security questions that we received about a half an hour ago at this point.
As promised, we will get back to those. And our Social Security texter writes, I'm 70 and started collecting Social Security in March. Is there a pro or con on having Social Security withhold taxes? I am retiring in January 2025 and will have about $750,000 in a 401k and a pension payout of about $250,000. Thanks for your advice.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Absolutely.
And I would just say that it really behooves you to permit Social Security to withhold federal income taxes for you,
and it's
not an automatic. That's the problem. It's not easy to do, but you want them to do it. And the primary reason for that is that let's call it that 30,000, that 35,000, whatever that total amount is per year. If you don't have taxes withheld, you're going to owe taxes. I mean, you're going to go at least anywhere from $3,500 to who knows, $4,000 in taxes, and you won't have withheld it.
And the other benefit is, well, first of all, it's going to smooth everything out for you. You don't have to do quarterly withholdings because you didn't withhold throughout the year. But also, it should take pressure off of your distributions from your investments, because if you're withholding taxes from everywhere, you don't have to make up anything or have to take an excess distribution to pay the taxes in the future. So if you're withholding consistently throughout, just like you withhold from your paycheck, then one, it'll make filing your taxes more simple, and secondly, you won't be putting more pressure on your liquid assets versus, taking the the gross amount from your Social Security, which is a fixed income instrument, is how I look at it, because it's consistent.
Well, honey, sort of like, do I pay my escrow through monthly payments,
or wait until November and do
right?
it all?
I mean, if you're a person that wants to wait, then go ahead and wait, but be ready, because you're going to have a tax bill.
And so it's not simple to it. It is simple to have your taxes withheld. It's just not on the online registration, nor is it when you go in and sign up. They don't even let you go into the Social Security offices to enroll anymore unless you have a special situation. But the form is called the W-4V, which is what allows you to withhold from federally distributed income, so that, if you had a federal pension, you would be using the same form to elect withholdings there too. You fill this form out and you mail it back to your local Social Security office. It can take several months if you've already elected Social Security for that to kick in, but that's okay because it's just a few months out of the year. We definitely would recommend withholding from your Social Security benefit. The nice thing is, if you live in Missouri, you no longer have state taxes to withhold from your Social Security benefit, because that ended the first of this year.
Yay, Governor Parsons.
That's right, Governor Parsons.
I think that someone was saying they had it on his desk. He just had to sign it, and I guess he finally has.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Do we have another text question, or are we going to go to our first break of the hour?
It's kind of crazy because we had almost the same exact question, one right after the other, from two different people. My wife and I don't have taxes taken out of our Social Security. Is that a bad thing? I don't say it's bad. Just makes things simpler when you do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we naturally, after the first year this occurs, in general, our clients aren't going back and changing it. What they're doing is we're changing our withholding to make up for those taxes for them.
Right. So, but you can fill out that W-4V, send it in.
Exactly, which is what I'm going to do when I elect my Social Security benefit.
When are you going to do that?
And this is
I don't know, babe. I don't. The problem is that you pay me, so I don't need the money.
This is a nice open-ended.
We can change that.
I have some other changes that I'm hoping will happen first, but that's okay.
And we have a nice
just walked right into that
open-ended text before we get to our first break of the second hour. And our texter writes, would you talk a little about the election and what moves we might make depending on which party wins? Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the election.
It's coming up.
It'll be here.
Before you know it.
Someone's going to win.
It's terrible.
So there are only going to be...
Calm.
There are going to be two primary candidates. There could be others. We know who they are. And then that's probably, in my opinion, that's probably not going to change.
Oh, okay. Oh, look, we have a little prognostication. I like that.
I don't think it's going to. I mean, President Biden already has all the delegates he needs to secure the nomination. Unless he decides to voluntarily walk away, they can't take it away from him. That's democracy. Mm-hmm. That's even though his party wants to, which to me, you can ask yourself a question: who wants to vote for somebody whose party doesn't want him? That's fine.
We won't ask that question.
But when it comes, that's just a rhetorical question. But when it comes down to investing, we know the current administration and what their approach is towards various policies, including public policy when it comes to the economy and growth, which means they don't have one. Okay, the other party is, we know what they've done in the past.
It's actually a great setup because the market likes calm. That's
yes,
and so it's nice to know that unfortunately, with most elections, when a new president takes office, we don't necessarily know. We heard what they were going to do during the campaign, but what they can actually get done and what their 100-day mandate is can be a bit of a mystery, which can jostle markets. But we've actually seen both of these presidents in action before, which may mean that we could see some smoothing of the market because they know what's coming.
So again, here what I would suggest is we know the old guy. We know, well, both old guys. We know the current administration. We know the previous administration. Would I make change to my portfolio? No.
I saw a really interesting.
I mean, certainly not at this point, because generally what will happen is if you're going to make any changes, I would like to think them as sector changes, which is if we see some emphasis wanting to go in one direction versus another one, that's where you might say, hey, let's add a little emphasis here. But at this point, it isn't run for the hills.
And I saw a really interesting some really interesting information of Republican president versus Democratic president. It's literally 50-50 over the course of time in terms of market returns. So what that says to us is that the president can only do so much to hurt and only so much to help stock market returns. So that wouldn't be a primary driver of our investing strategy.
You can't invest by the news cycle.
Right.
If you try and go that route, you're going to fall on your face every time. It just, the last 2 years, Biden has been president, and, however we may feel about his policies, the markets have done pretty well over the last 2 years. We've been in a nice little AI-driven rally. So there are things happening beneath the surface that are separate and apart from what goes on in Washington. I know, a lot of people find that hard to believe given the 24-hour news cycle that we're in, but there are. And, you've got to have kind of like a bifurcated view of politics and your investments, because they're on two totally different tracks. So how many government shutdowns, how many elections have we lived through? Right, and there's momentarily there can be some volatility around these known knowns, as we like to call them, but generally the band time. Dogs bark, but the caravan marches on. And it's important to remember that. Again,
in finance, there is a thing called the market expectations theory, which is one that I learned in business school many, many years ago, that the market is truly driven by the expectations of investors of what future growth is going to be. So we have the greatest economy on the planet, without question. We have the fairest and the freest country on the planet, without question. Best place to invest. Stay invested. Do your thing.
Meet your risk tolerance.
That's right. There's always going to be bumps, okay? But at the end of the day, this country, this economy, it all moves forward. And that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. And you know what else is a good thing?
Taking our first break of the hour.
Let's do it.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on retirement after these messages.
The half-price sale at Miller Furniture and Mattress has been extended. Save now through this Sunday.
I'm Mark Miller, owner of Miller Furniture. Your home for quality American-made furniture since 1927. Right now, it's our best sale of the year, where you save half on all in-stock furniture.
Plus, half off custom orders on Flexsteel, Smith Brothers, Amish-made furniture, and more.
See our new Amish-made outdoor furniture, now available at all 4 locations and on display in Fairview Heights.
Shop for your Tempur-Pedic at Miller Furniture. Save up to $500 on Tempur-Pedic Breeze and get up to 48 months 0% interest.
Visit any of our 4 locations, Belleville, Fairview Heights, Lake St. Louis, or Ellisville on Manchester Road, and save on over $6 million of inventory. You'll see why we were voted the Retailer of the Year by the Home Furnishings Association.
Don't miss the half-price sale at Miller Furniture, now extended through July 14th. Your American-made furniture headquarters on both sides of the river.
At Miller Furniture, we put the family in furniture.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. Got about 30 minutes left. We're here to answer your calls and texts at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And we've really been dedicating this show to
your questions.
That we get. A lot of them we get through the website with the Contact Me section. And then also we do receive separate emails. Jeff at jblfinancial.com, the one that's been abandoned. Aaron grabs them all. So
it's been abandoned.
And she answers them all very quickly, which is cool.
That is true.
Tethered to that email account.
Tethered.
No.
It's like another.
No, it was a child take.
Don't.
Let's not talk about appendages, okay?
Okay.
Tom from Pagedale.
Well, before we get to Tom, we have texts.
Do we?
We do.
And our next texter writes, getting ready to retire early. Both spouse and I are 62 and have a special needs son who is 30 and gets SSI, trying to get him on Medicare rather than Medicaid. Any thoughts on how to do that going into early retirement versus current private pay employer?
Sure. This is going to be relatively easy for you, which is your son is going to have a special election into Medicare when you or your wife, whomever's coverage he's currently using, retires and leaves the private pay plan. So that way it'll line up just like when you retire at 62, you'll either take COBRA, which will start as soon as your current plan ends, or if you're going to look for individual coverage, that'll start up right when your current plan terminates. Your son will be able to transition over to Medicare when your current plan terminates, or he may even... Medicare allows for what's called voluntary disenrollment. So, for example, if you and your wife are getting ready to retire, but maybe you're retiring in February or March of next year, and you want your son's Medicare to start January 1st, he can voluntarily disenroll December 31st from the private pay employer plan that he's currently utilizing, elect Medicare for January 1st, and then you and your wife can leave the plan whenever you retire.
Yeah, honey, because I know that as a dependent, he has COBRA rights, he could go up to 3 years, and the only reason they might keep him on it for the balance of the year is if he's already satisfied his deductible.
Right, but if you're going to start right at the beginning of the year, you probably won't.
It's easy, right?
Well, because Medicare is going to be less expensive than COBRA, unless your employer is subsidizing some of the COBRA.
Yes, so the transition is not a difficult one to do, but it's something that's foreign to you. So if you need help, you can always give us a call, 314-863-0008. Leave a message or ask for Frank. We'll get to you.
Yes, we will.
Are we okay now?
We're ready to talk about Tom.
Momentarily beaten the text line into compliance.
Oh, great. So Tom sneaked one through to me. He said, I'm currently working, but my spouse is not. I'm self-employed and make the maximum contribution to an IRA each year. Is there anything I can do to increase my retirement plan savings? Well, Tom, I think there are several things that you can do, but what I might suggest here is maybe you're in the wrong plan. Those folks that are self-employed have various options. If you don't have employees, you could have a SEP. You could also, which is a simplified employee pension, you can put up to 25% of your pay into a plan.
It's a lot more than the IRA amounts.
Right, exactly. You could also do a simple IRA. A simple IRA has a contribution limit of approximately $13,500 for you as an individual, and that's obviously almost double the IRA limits. You could also do a solo 401k plan. So I really like to suggest here is that maybe it's a good idea for you to sit down with your advisor, who should have already told you this stuff, okay, and say, okay, here are some options that we have available to us. We can leave that IRA sitting there, and then eventually this other plan could be combined with it. But in regard to your spouse, another thing that you can do is you could open a spousal IRA. traditional or Roth.
And make the maximum contribution to that.
Exactly.
But there are income limitations on that, correct?
There
are, but he isn't covered by a plan. So I don't think he actually falls under the income limitation.
Oh, gotcha.
Exactly. And as I said, he could open up a SEP, et cetera. The other thing he could consider doing is
HSA contribution.
Yes, that's right. Finding a health plan that is HSA compatible, and then making up to, what is it now? It's like $10,000 with a catch-up provision between two people. The other thing you could think about is you're self-employed. Why don't you put your wife on the payroll? Get her enrolled in paying into Social Security. You could also then defer, in theory, up to 100% of her income into an IRA, into a simple IRA, into a SEP plan, into a 4. So lots of stuff you could do. I just have a feeling that, you're using a walker, but you really only need a cane.
What?
Right?
I'm gonna use that one.
I don't know about that one.
Well, the thing is that you really need. I mean, it's time for you to get some advice because there really are other options available to you. And again, if you're not getting from your advisor, talk to whoever's doing your taxes.
Sure.
They should be telling you these good things too.
Right, because you have more options than just.
Exactly. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Hot and Heavy KTRS text line.
And speaking of that text line, our next texter writes, "Good morning. Last night I was looking at my portfolio and I noticed that since the first of the year it has grown 30%.
That's great.
Woohoo.
Am I in the majority or have other people, am I in the minority or have other people experienced this same growth?"
Well, I would say if it's a 401k or an employer-sponsored plan, you want to be careful with the growth rate only because they will include contributions as growth. So that might change the actual investment return number that you're looking at.
Yes.
But secondarily, it sounds like you might have been leaning towards the parts of the economy, the sectors of the market that were performing particularly well. I'm sure many people have heard this over the last several months, which is that right now we've been in a relatively narrow market, meaning a handful of securities are really pulling the market up versus a variety across multiple sectors of the economy. So you may have some concentration, which, based on the last few days, might be an opportunity for you to do some rebalancing to ensure that you maintain that fantastic growth.
Yes. I read that the S&P is up 15% through the first half of the year.
Yep.
The S&P, again, has no expenses associated with it. It's just the index. And that index at this point also is a third of the return. A third of the companies are actually generating most of the return. So what you want to think about here is that if you have a diversified portfolio, which means that you have a mix of stocks, equity funds, and fixed income bonds, cash, etc., the biggest component of your determinant of your return is truly your mix. So if you had a 60-40 mix, well, the question is, what's the 40% doing? What's the 60% doing? What's the blended yield? So, the last 9 months have been very good. In terms of the market movement.
Yep.
And hopefully you're participating. What I would certainly say to this, to our texter is, congratulations for staying involved. Make sure that this could be a good time for you to consider, if you already haven't done, rebalancing your portfolio so that you're not getting over-concentrated in any one area. And at the same time, that mix that you have should really, again, respond to and really be in line with, as Rob said earlier, your time horizon. How soon are you going to need money coming from this plan? How old are you? How is your health? How much longer will you be making contributions, etc.? Mm-hmm. So all these things come into and factor into what is the development of asset allocation, which is your mix between stock and bonds, and then the actual diversification, which is making sure that you have a pie that has more than 2 or 3 pieces.
They're different flavors.
Exactly, because we know that, unfortunately, all parts of the market, the stock market or the bond market, don't move in the same way at the same rate.
at the same time
either. So what happens is that's why at certain periods of time, larger company stocks do better than smaller company stocks, and other times smaller companies do better, and sometimes international does better than domestic.
Or value, tech versus growth versus value, that kind of thing.
So diversification, the purpose for that is to smooth returns. And by smoothing returns, what we're talking about is taking out the peaks and the valleys. But you should have a portfolio that's really designed with a mix that can give you an opportunity to deliver the returns you need. So like we talk about, when it comes time to replace part of that paycheck that we have to for most folks, you're able to do that. And you'll be able to maintain that portfolio over long periods of time. I mean, that's what the big deal is. You know, do I become more, I love all these articles, I should become more conservative in retirement. No, you shouldn't. I mean, what happens is that mix that you have that's developing the returns, that's giving you the income, or we're skimming the growth, to give you to replace your paycheck, that's going to happen as long as you're alive.
And you could be retired for longer than.
And we've had clients that have been retired for 20 plus years. They're getting the income that they want. And really what's happening is that their capital base is being maintained or growing, which is also a good thing if it does happen. At the same time, then, they're not worried about running out of money.
It's also your number one way that any individual can fight inflation is through investments in the market.
Right.
And volatility is the price we pay for the chance to get some better returns.
That's right. And
well said.
Before we take our second break of the hour, let's get to our last text question on deck.
And our texter writes, I have a simple IRA, and I believe the contribution limits are $16,000 this year. Am I correct?
That is correct, $16,000. But if you happen
does include the catch-up provision?
It doesn't. If you happen to be over the age of 50 years old, you can contribute an additional $3,500.
Do you have me queued into that?
You've completed your contributions for the year. Yes, we do. Have you keyed into that?
Oh, you did that. You changed my stuff.
Well,
Aaron likes to contribute early.
So there are a few different philosophies that people might have around contributions to their retirement accounts. Now, if you're just starting out or you're increasing your contributions in the past, maybe you do need to smooth it out over the course of the year to hit your maximum. But others, like myself, I would prefer to contribute. Obviously, I can't contribute my full paycheck at the beginning of the year because I need money to live off of, but I try to make significant contributions at the beginning of the year so I get the money in as quickly as possible. But then it's almost like you get a little raise once you're done making those contributions. Now, most people will be aware that you're not going to get the full. So if you're contributing, let's say, $1,000 a month, you're not going to get the full $1,000 back on your paycheck when you're done contributing, because the money went in, the joy of pre-tax, right? The money went in pre-tax at $1,000 a month rate, but it's going to come to you with taxes withheld. So depending upon your tax bracket, as opposed to $1,000, you'll only see $800 increase on your paycheck. But, you know, the games we like to play to make ourselves happy.
You're the bookkeeper, babe.
If they were smart, they would take away all the contribution limits. Like, you'd be able to put 100% of your income in there if you want to. I mean, if we really wanted to get people.
But see, the problem with that is then where would they get their tax revenue for the years?
They would print it up. They got that magic printer. What are you talking about? That thing. Have you ever seen that thing work?
I think they limited that because of Mitt Romney, right?
I can't.
That Romney IRA.
Another reason to dislike Mitt.
Stop. I was just, or they limited those backdoor Roths or something. I know there was. Everybody ruins it. Somebody ruins it for everybody.
Well, I think the problem is that the plans, when they're designed, are not really being designed by people that know how to design plans. I mean, that's really what it gets down to. I mean, the concept of Roth. I mean, putting an income limitation on someone, present company included, that cannot make a contribution to a Roth because you make too much money. Well, Roth is an after-tax contribution. So why wouldn't you let people that can't? Why would you preclude anyone from making an after-tax contribution? I don't get
because
it.
they want you to pay more taxes when you're retired. But I would also say it's probably, I would also look to the fact that it might be a little bit of a nanny state situation because, as we all know, there are limitations as to when, how much you can pull from your retirement accounts before you're 59 and a half. So stopping people from essentially shooting themselves in the foot, you over contribute and then, oh gosh, I need this because an emergency came up. So they're trying to limit you to, you know.
You could adjust if you took away the contribution limits and then you made the penalty 25%.
Let's call Congress.
Oh, you could play around with it if they were really invested in the idea of getting people to fund their own accounts and to fund them aggressively.
That's fair. Well, with all that being said, if only they asked us.
Right. No one, they didn't call into the show.
They didn't call into the show.
And with that, should we take our second break?
Let's do that.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Living with chronic or severe hip or knee pain can affect every aspect of your life. Dr. Christopher Palmer with Signature Orthopedics may be able to help you get back to the things you love. Dr. Palmer specializes in robotic hip and knee replacements using a minimally invasive technology to provide patients with relief from arthritis and joint pain. Less invasive means less painful and faster recovery times. Pain from arthritis and joint degeneration can be constant or come and go. It's common for patients to try medication and other conservative treatments to treat their knee or hip pain. If you haven't experienced adequate relief from those treatment options, you may be a candidate for a Mako Smart Robotics partial or total knee or hip replacement, which may provide you with relief from your joint pain. Learn more at drpalmerortho.com. You don't have to live with joint pain. Go to drpalmerortho.com to learn more and schedule your appointment and get back to the things you love.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Woohoo! 1047 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're back with some more Straight Talk on Retirement. We have about 12 minutes left in the show. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877. And keep those texts coming in on the text line, 84126.
And speaking of those texts on the text line, our next texter writes, when does my wife need to start taking an IRA distribution? She turned 72 this year. Her IRA is in an annuity that we do not take distributions from. It is with Genworth.
Great news. You got a whole year. Next year is
when,
73 is when you'll need to start taking distributions, or she'll need to start taking distributions from her IRA. If 100% of it is inside of the annuity, most annuities are RMD friendly, which means you can start taking those required minimum distributions. If she has another IRA or money outside of the annuity contract, you don't have to take equally from each IRA. You could overload one versus another if your plan is to continue to hold off on those annuity distributions. Or one other thing, since 73 next year will be when your wife turns 73. If you had planned to wait even one more year, as long as it's before April of 2026,
you'll have to take two that year. But
you have to take two that year, but theoretically, if the distribution from the annuity amount helps cover over both years, you could do it twice in 1 year, depending upon contract renewal and things like that. So you definitely probably want to sit down with your advisor if you want to become more creative with your distribution plan versus just starting it next year.
The only thing I would add here is that the key date isn't your wife's birthday. It's actually the contract anniversary date.
Meaning when you can take the distribution.
Right, because typically you can make an annuity withdrawal once per year or multiple times per year, but you can only pull up to a certain amount. 5 or 10%. It just depends on what the contract says. But again, if you're waiting for some type of if you have a rider
key date or something
that's guaranteeing some type of interest crediting, you want to make sure that you do it after the anniversary date. So that's something that we're very conscious with for our clients, because we want to maximize their benefits.
Right. So, for example, in 2020, so if 2025 is the first year, you have to take the required minimum distribution, but you don't want to take it in 25. If you wait until 26, if the contract anniversary is before April, you could theoretically take 2 distributions within 2026. One before April 15th, as long as the contract renews before that time, and then one after the contract renewal, because it'll be technically 2 contract years within the same calendar year.
Yes. Or alternate, right. I mean,
right.
you could certainly
right.
do that, or you could just take one this year and then one next year as well.
Right.
But I would take a look at that, and again, look at and that'll be on your annual statement, by the way. The annuity statement will show what the
anniversary date is
on the contract, right?
Absolutely.
Front page, and
right
also what was put
top.
in inception as well,
yep.
which is great.
And we grabbing from our mailbag questions, Gary from Imperial writes, my son started contributing to his 401k through his employer last month and asked me if I would help him select his choices for investments. Given his age of 30, I thought the blue chip fund was preferable to the generic retire by 2060 options that were available. What do you think?
So, my first thought would be the 2055 or the 2060 fund retire by is not generic. It is a compilation of multiple funds, and it is just going to determine your son's mix, meaning the further out the retirement date, the more equity heavy or stock heavy the portfolio is going to be versus bonds to cash. Over time, so if he elects that fund exclusively, over time, as he progresses towards 2060, they'll be adding more of a bond component into the portfolio as he reaches that date. It's kind of a set it and forget it strategy, whereas if you are going to elect individual mutual funds, index funds, depending upon what's available inside of your son's 401k, you're definitely going to want to monitor that on a regular basis because you are controlling the mix. You're also controlling not only how aggressive you're being, but, for example, the blue chip funds, that's only going to invest in one, most likely a narrow sector of the economy versus one of those retire by 2060 funds, which is going to give you a broad cross-section of not only different sectors of the economy, but different types of securities, stocks, as well as bonds and cash.
I like the target date maturity funds. What it also suggests is that, you have a strategy where once every 3 years to 5 years, you're moving the date back. So if you choose 2055 as an example today, 5 years from now, you go back and you move to 2060.
Also, the other thing is all of those target date funds or retire by funds, different companies call them different things. You can actually see what funds are invested if you look up. They have little ticker symbols next to them. So you could take a look, and if you find that the 2060 fund doesn't include the blue chip fund that you were mentioning, you can use other funds as what we would like to call satellites to your main investable assets, so you can have a little bit of both. You just want to make sure you're not duplicating what's inside the target fund.
Well, as you were saying, honey, as a way to add emphasis.
Right.
So
I think Ari was trying to set his son up to be a little bit more aggressive in his 30s, and maybe switch that up as he moves into his 40s and 50s. He can, begin to change the temperature on how he wants to have that allocated. But certainly doesn't hurt being as aggressive as possible, given his age of 30 years old.
Well, also those target date funds, if you push them out far enough, they're going to be aggressive because
that's a great point.
Yeah, and then you can add emphasis like we were talking about, and if that's in the market side of things, the equity side of things, then you can enhance your aggression.
Well, I've always considered the fixed income portion of the portfolio as the rudder.
Okay.
I mean, the boat is the equity side, the rudder is the fixed income side. So depending on how big a boat you want,
You need a bigger rudder.
That's right. Or you need sometimes you need a bigger rudder, sometimes you need a small rudder. But
got you.
Again, if we study this stuff, and if you look at portfolio returns over different periods of time, and we're talking about portfolios as in 100% into the S&P 500 versus 100% in treasuries, and all the mix in between. What you'll find is that over long periods of time, an 80-20, which is considered a growth portfolio,
80% equities, 20% bonds and
right,
cash.
Doesn't truly underperform
100%.
Right. So how much risk do you need? When you go the other way, when you start adding the fixed income component into the plan, the larger it is, the more the component return reduces. What's happening today is we're in the middle again. We saw interest rates hit the trough. They've come up. The question becomes, and we have another question about this, is are they going to back off again because the Fed wants to spur the economy forward, and how long will that be? Or are we really on an incline now when it comes to interest rates?
Or are we at a plateau where they'll just hold?
Right. And the answer is you don't know. But what I would certainly say is that, at least for me, and I think I can speak for my other co-advisors here, there was a point in time, a year or 2 years ago, where as rates were beginning to come off the floor, we were concerned about how far they would go. And so what we did was we made some defensive maneuvers to get our clients away from those accounts, because interest rate increases have the same negative effect as recessions do on the stock market. Every time interest rate rises, the bond values go down. So we arrested that. We arrested that stuff.
Right, the market value of the bond is decreasing as the coupon is increasing, because a lot of people don't consider that bonds are actually traded throughout the day, just like individual securities. So if I am holding a bond that pays 4%,
and they come out with 5% ones, your 4% bond.
So my 4% bond isn't worthless; it still pays 4%. But if I want to sell it, I have to sell it at a discount.
A significant discount. About
I think 20%. It's 20%, right? For every 1% move in rates is a 20% move in the market value of a bond. I have to sell it at a 20% discount in order to entice someone, so to speak, to purchase it, because
why would they purchase yours,
coupon,
right, when they can go out and just get one that's paying 5%?
A fresh one. Exactly.
Well, that's right. And so, the question then becomes, which one of our other emails asked us, is this a time to lock in? The answer is
maybe.
It depends.
But also there's so many different types of bonds. You don't necessarily have to lock in with U.S. Treasuries.
Well, it's interesting because I'm kind of looking at this from a portfolio return perspective. For our clients that need income, and those that are retired, they're needing income, we're replacing part of that paycheck, locking in rates at 4 to 5% are okay. Because we're working off
4 to 5% withdrawal rate.
If we're withdrawing 4 and we're growing it back at 5, hey, guess what?
That's right. So it doesn't mean that we have to move everything there, but again, that portion of the portfolio, in my mind, I like to say it's holding its water. It's able to carry the water, and that's sort of what we have been doing. So, it just depends. If you're in your 20s or 30s, it's called forget it. I mean, very small component amount. But if you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, then we're looking at, hey, if you want that big rudder that's there, it's not a bad thing to do.
And our last texter writes, I am taking Social Security this month since I've just turned 70. How much should my wife and I need to keep in a money market account for our use monthly?
We would recommend that you keep between 3 and 6 months of cash in your money market or savings account in order to meet your monthly income needs without having to pull from anywhere.
Plus the amount that you might have that would make you be able to go back to bed at night if you had a bad dream.
That's fair.
A bad financial dream.
A bad financial dream.
Well, I mean, sometimes people have those, and it's easy to do. But one way that you bypass those dreams,
those scary ones,
you can always call us for a coaching session, 314-863-0008 if you're within 5 years of retirement or already retired. We'd love to see you at our beautiful office in Clayton. Again, 314-863-0008, or send us an email, Jeff or Aaron at jblfinancial.com.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.